Hello, everyone. Welcome to our today's seminar. This is Ningjian Chen, so I will be your host for today's seminar. Please also make sure to keep your speaker microphone mute so that it will not interfere our teacher's lecture. And if you have a question during the lecture, please type in the chat box and we'll collect it and we'll ask at the end of the lecture. So today's topic is clinical application of empirical points of Shanghai Fan's acupuncture. We have free academic activities every month that we hope will benefit greatly our members' profession and our practice too. So our honored speaker today is Dr. Yemon Chen. He is actually our honorable president of our association. Dr. Chen is a world-renowned TCM expert and educator with more than 35 years of experiences. He is also a prolific author and published more than 50 papers and more than 20 books on acupuncture and Chinese medicine. He is the president of the New York College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He's also the president of the National Federation of Chinese TCM Organization, the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Complementary Medicine and Alternative Healthcare. He also holds many top positions in other organizations at international and national level. So I'm not going to spend too much time to exhaust the list. It's a long list, and you can find it on the web on his bio. So we are very lucky to have Dr. Chen here today, as he's so busy, to give us this Fan's acupuncture. Fan's acupuncture is a systematic style of acupuncture originated in the area of Shanghai more than 100 years ago. Around the year 1985, Dr. Chen graduated from Shanghai Chinese Medical Doctor University, and he started to learn and received extensive training from his mentor, the well-known professor Yuan Fan, on Fan's acupuncture. And in 2017, Dr. Chen co-authored a book called 100 Years Experiences Collection of Fan's Acupuncture. So I would guess not many of us here as a young generation of acupuncture probably not know much about this style of acupuncture. So we have a rare chance here today to learn it from Dr. Chen. So let's welcome Dr. Chen.
Thank you, Dr. Chen, and I'm so happy to join the series seminar of the Young Acupuncture Association of America. And it's a great association and has a very vivid activities. Only, I think, established for 1 month. I from the WeChat group, I already saw so many activities and discussions, and it's so wonderful. That's the future of the next generation of acupuncture profession. It's very important for the acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. We not only have to learn from the school. In the school, there's a didactic course, clinical grand rounds, clinical trainings. Seems not enough. So it's also, if you're lucky enough to follow one master, and that's you can really get a hands-on training, and you can see the difference. And also, if you utilize this technology or knowledge and technology in the clinical practice, it would be totally different. So I just share screen with you. Okay, share screen. So I think is they always get to the point. That's for acupuncturists, it's the most important. In 2020, I believe it was January 19, 2020, I was invited to Taiwan for the Chinese Acupuncture Medical Association. They have an annual conference. I was invited to as a guest speaker, the keynote speaker. And after the session, that's also, it's a pandemic started, so it's very special experience. But at the end of conference, they gave me a gift. It's a mug. The mug is the words. I take a look. Wow, that's really get the point. It's not an acupuncture point. It's the point of the key of the acupuncture practice. 手机手神. Yeah, so it's hard to translate, right? So I think it just say understanding the spirit. This should be the top, and know the subtleties and the triggers. Actually, this word came from the spiritual pivot in the Neijing Ling Su. Yeah, so the chapter 3, 小针解, the minor needle explanation, and also chapter 2 also mentioned 9 needle, 12 resources. Yeah, so that chapter also mentioned. So I highlight that words. The superior practitioners understand the spirit. That is to say, they keep to focus and guard a person's blood and qi, and they will supplement and drain when there is a surplus and insufficiency. So that's the word 上神守神者守人之血气 blood and qi 有余不足可补泻. So you have to find out actually is the situation of the qi and blood and the situation of deficiency or in excess. Then try to make the appropriate methods. Then the superior practitioners know the subtleties, triggers. G is it's some book translated mechanism. Actually, it's not. I really respect the expert from German scholar, Onshot, Professor Onshot, Paul Onshot, and he translated Su Wen and translated Ling Su. And so far, I think is still considered as the authoritative English translation edition. There was 2, 3, or 4, yeah, the English translation of Neijing. But he was historic experts, and he was the language expert. And he utilized certain words and with the ancient Chinese letter and used a little bit of ancient English or something to match. But when you read this, it seems not really. You really get the point. And also, Dr. Onshaw, I believe he is not a practitioner. So some translation is like talk about the facial paralysis. Yeah, so it's supposed to be the one side, but his translation both sides. So that's the medical knowledge. That's also the G is kind of the pivot. The G is actually the pivot of the door. Yeah, so you try to get that moment. You open the door or close the door. So you have to hold. You have to know that. And when get this chance, you do some action. So that's also my translation, also not so good, but it's understandable. So it's to say they know how to focus and guard the qi according to the translation. So that's very important of the clinical practice. And I was lucky enough when I graduated from the Shanghai, at that time, Shanghai College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, later became Shanghai University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. So I was assigned, I was lucky enough, and I was, when you graduate, and now you have to look for jobs. So at that time, I was assigned to Huashan Hospital, affiliated to Shanghai Medical University, and follow the master of Dr. Fang Yuan Fang. And he has very sufficient experience, and also he and his father and Fang's acupuncture and was listed in Intangible Cultural Heritage list in Shanghai Municipal Government. So it was 2015. So that's the his style, and it's actually not only, and he also wrote a book about the golden needle secrets, and also had the contact with the European and especially in the French, the earliest acupuncture transmitters, and brought acupuncture to France. That's the Souris de Maron, and a very close contact with him. Yeah, so it's a very famous calligrapher, wrote Fang Acupuncture. Yeah, very nice calligrapher. So their practice is very important, has the based on the differentiation. So, but their differentiation different with the Zangfu organ differentiation. I believe they mostly catch the 8 principles and also with the channels. So I think that 2 weeks ago, I saw an article published in the journal in Chinese, is the Chinese Acupuncture Mark Sebastian, the journal, talk about the Zangfu organ differentiation, the relationship with the acupuncture practice. Seems we deviate the track with the older style practice, and we use a lot because the specific, everybody knows Kanbook, Chinese Acupuncture Mark Sebastian. So Kanbook with the I think the style of the writing is originally used for International Acupuncture Training Center. So those medical doctors went to China as a WHO collaborating center. I believe there were 4, one in Shanghai, Beijing, Nanjing, and another one, I can't remember, it's Chengdu or Guangzhou. Anyway, there's 4. So the purpose to make this a textbook and also put them together. So that's the unique book, including TCM fundamental theories and syndrome pattern analysis, and also acupuncture points, technique, all in together. That's the Kanbook, and it's now become like a Bible. So right now NCCOM still use it as a reference, but more and more other books published. So, but anyway, their differentiation pattern is different with other recently we are using, but also they use less points and a few points. And also they emphasize the manipulations. The most common they are using is the manipulation based on the rapid or slow insertion and withdrawal methods, and also opening and closing. So those are the methods they are using. But most I want to share with everyone is because of time limited. They pay a lot of attention to the palpation. So before needling, they will do the palpation. So the palpation, it gather some kind of spots and sensitive spots, as acupuncture points or around the acupuncture point, or as some areas. And then you got it, and the patient response and the reaction, and it's like a trigger. So right now, the trigger points, dry needle trigger, that's the most related to musculoskeletal anatomy. But also, as an acupuncturist, it's very important to do the palpation and find out where is the trigger. And so the Ji is very important, very important. Here I list some kind of the points commonly practiced in Fan style. And so I will introduce one by one. The first we talk about the migraine headaches. And a migraine headache is the is episodic, episodic. It's a correlation, mostly related to women and correlation with the menstrual cycles. It's related to the Shaoyang headaches, right? That's most people knows. And I believe in the past I presented several lectures about the migraine prophylaxis. That's the evidence in the Cochrane library. So the evidence-based medicine headquarters has the white paper indicate acupuncture not only can treat the migraine and during the episode, and acupuncture also can prevent the episodic attack. So migraine prophylaxis is a very important indication, and that's the potential for acupuncture practice to expand your practice. So patient had the pain, of course, they come to see you and you give the very good treatment, and then usually they just left, okay? And then until next time they have a new episode, they will come. So you can provide the evidence information and let them know, and you can have some plan, design the protocol, the treatment plan for them, and to prevent for the migraine headache. So it's very important. I believe it's, you know, for the migraine, oftenly has attack with the migraine attack, those people, patients, they usually has related to very special constitution. You know, in Chinese medicine, we pay more attention to individualize the constitution. Beijing University TCM, Dr. Huang Qi, and he and his team had a detailed research and in-depth research about the 9 constitution among the humans. And each one has kind of criterion, and those are important. So we have to modify or adjust those kind of, the patient is, I believe mostly is constitution related to liver qi stagnation or easily have the blood stasis. And those two, and also interesting, have a one group, the third group, I saw the article mentioned the third group is indeficiency. And so that's the, so usually consider the liver qi stagnation and liver yang rising, and also could be the indeficiency. So that's the 3 major things of the constitution, and they had a clinical survey. But anyway, that's the points Dr. Fang used. So the main points he's using is posterior Taiyang and the GB20 and the GB41. So the posterior Taiyang is his favorite points, and treat lots of like stress and depression, all the indications. It's the points of the Sanjiao 23, and horizontally going backward and reach the hair border. So we use a one-turn needle. It's very important. We have to touch around this area. Usually we can find some tender spots, very tender. So when you insert a needle, you should be very careful. And this area, the subcutaneous layers is very thin. And we use the 20 we pinch the skin. We pinch the skin and a 20-degree going backward, horizontally insertion. And so because the temporal area, that's, I think, I use this picture, it's not my picture from the website. So that's, they show this picture. They have copyrights. Anyway, so horizontally insertion, sometimes because some patient, the subcutaneous layer is very thin, you feel some tightness and then you have to stop. You're going backward, then insert. So you can put the dry cotton here and guide the needle shaft in the layer. This is the same as the like a scalp acupuncture, yeah. And the bilateral. So it's very tender. So you have to maybe you do the thumb to kneading first around this area, and then use alcohol swipe and then insert. Yeah. So that's the and also you can see the points. Yeah. That's the Taiyang, the regular Taiyang. Yeah. Also, I think Dr. Liu Wei also had a Taiyang Hoxue, also is around this, but the indication totally different. Indication different. Yeah. So that's the point. And also, some patient, has the severe migraine and they don't allow you touch the head. And also it's one spot, the most distal, the leg and the foot, GB41. And always when a patient has a migraine headache, you will find the GB41, this spot's very tender. And a severe pain, more severe pain, more tender in this spot. So normal person, whatever you squeeze, they don't have any response. And some patient you press harder and they feel it. And some patient you just put a finger on the little bit press, they feel very tender. And some severe case, you touch the skin of these spots, and then they will screaming also. So that's very important point to relieve the migraine headache. So GB41 is between the fourth and the fifth metatarsal bone. A very narrow place, and you had to pick up in the small toe, and also with extensor digitorum longus. And that ligament, you can see, this is lateral of this ligament, and between fourth and the fifth metatarsal bone. Going the medial aspect, that's a GB42. So you can use the finger between the fourth and the fifth toe and sliding down and the lateral of the ligament. But this is a very narrow area. So you probably, when I insert this needle, I use the fingernail to press. When my fingernail to press, I know the direction. So that has a space. So follow this, the angle, the needle going through between the two bones. Otherwise, the location is correct, but you hit this bone or hit that bone, you won't allow you going deeper. So that's you need to practice. And also it's important, you hit the bone doesn't work. You had to going a little bit deeper, you 1 turn needle and going about a half turn or 0.7. So the way to make sure is between the two bones, and the angle can stray the two bones, and you can use a fingernail to nip, and then the nip you can feel it. Okay, this is the bone, and so this angle is not good. This angle not good. Okay, this because it's not really is perpendicular, because this platform is not like horizontally clearly, no, and you had to do pelvic. So sometimes when the needle inserting and the patient will be screaming, and also a few minutes later, the patient both this pain and the migraine headache will significant release. Okay, that's the point for migraine headache. For the depression also, it's related to liver qi stagnation, right? So liver qi stagnation also will cause the inhibit the spleen function. So that's the most point that Dr. Fang used. Do 20, do 17, and intern posterior Taiyang, and spring 6. So I usually alternate. So one side and do 20 because we want to do the reducing methods. So needle tip going to backward. And I use the 3 points in the front, intern, and the posterior Taiyang. So those 3 points. But the next visit, I could be using the bring 3 needles. So do 17, do 18, and do 19. So those 3 points is Dr. Fang used so often. It's 1.5 cun each, right? But in a hair border, it's not easy to find. So we can use the thumb holding the do 20, and the pinky hold in the EOP. And then you curved, and roughly is the average. So it's not really, you can feel the 1.5 cun, but it's this way is easier. So do 20 here, and this is EOP. And then do 17, 18, and 19. Okay, that's the method we're using. And also, sorry, that's, okay, sorry. I have to do this. Okay. Yes. And then use the way of the, like a scalp acupuncture. So the needle going downward, and you have to use 1.5 cun, and also because it's curved, so you use the needle. Okay, this is 20, this is 19. Okay, 19, 18, 17. So the needle horizontally inserted and going downward, and then 1 and 2 and 3. If you read ancient literature, you will find they always mention that do 19 is forbidden to needle, but actually we found it's fine. So even the ancient literature say is not supposed to needle in these spots, but we're still using, and it works very well as a 2 points group, one in the front, one in the back, and with any kind of stress or depression, it always works very well. But we use the needle, probably the gauge 32, gauge 32. That's too fine is not good, too thick also the scalp area is not easy to in some people subcutaneous layer is thin, so be very careful. So patient will be very painful, but most time, and if you touch, it's a slight tender. Also the patient feel tender, that's the spot we want to use. That's the key of the practice. So I mentioned the posterior Taiyang, we mentioned the points of GB41, and also the do 17, do 18, 19. Also for the patient, usually the GB20, the points also can use for the any kind of headaches or the soothing the liver. Soothing the Saoyang, we use GB20. So the GB20, the textbook always mention it's a needle direction toward the mouth, toward the nose. So that's the needle direction. It's the dangerous and GB20, the needle shaft toward the opposite side in the canvas. So that's dangerous. The textbooks always mention better not doing this. But Dr. Fang also, and he said, according to his practice, it seems the best way is toward the opposite in the canvas. So it's very important. You had to figure out the length of the needle. Okay, so if you use 2-ton needle, okay, 2.5-ton needle, and from the GB20 and all the way going to the opposite side in the canvas, you kill the people. So goes the occipital foramen and puncture the brainstem, that's you kill people. But if you only use a 1-ton needle, okay, 1-ton needle, even the direction going there, and it won't reach in that deep. And also is mostly doing the twisting and let the sensation gradually spreading. And that is works very well. So in the United States, if you go to seminar, go to anything, always the mention what the point you're using, right? But the point you're using also is the importance. You have to use the different manipulation. Only put the needle on this spots, it doesn't work. And sometimes the patient points has a variance. It's not as a textbook mentioned. So you really need to palpate, find the spots, get to the points. That's very important. For the patient, the right neck, so we usually use a 落诊穴, right? So the 落诊穴 works very well, but according to the Fang's acupuncture, he identified what's the problem of the tightness. So, and also relate to the patient's range of motion of the neck. So there are 6 range of motion, right? The extension, flexion, lateral flexion, right and left, and the rotation, right and left. So if the patient cannot do the extension flexion, that we consider with the, and the pain is on the center line, that's related to do this. And if the bilateral of the center, that's considered Taiyang, okay, trapezius. And also the patient has the problem on the lateral side, the SCM, that's usually covers the Shaoyang and the Yangming. So as I checked, I read the book, the spiritual pivot, chapter 13, the sinew channels, Jingjing, in the neck area, the Shaoyang and the Yangming, a little bit overlapped. They're overlapped. So that's besides, you can use 落诊 point, that's okay. But according to Fang's methods, more detailed, and find out where is the tender spots and what's the limited range of motion. So if a do vessel, you use a CV24, CV24. And also we usually ask the patient has the active movement. For the Taiyang, use small intestine 3. For Shaoyang, use Sanjiao 3, and the Yangming use light intestine 4. So that's the point I'm using. Seems now all it's air conditioned room. So, and suppose the right neck, the 落诊 point patient is less, not so many. But since now everyone look at the screen and look at the cell phone all the time. So yeah, if the position is not appropriate, still have, so for those kind of patient, you definitely need to do several methods and make sure when the patient walk out of your clinic and his neck movement is free. So we can make sure we can do this and we can achieve those kind of therapeutic effect. Cupping or some, ear points, so whatever you're using, so, and twin-arm massage, yeah, so that's all the methods you're using. So it's very important in the beginning, and use those points, ask patient to have active movements, and then you find where the tender spot, and according to the channel, you find those points, and also after that, use cupping and use the twin-arm methods. Next, I'll talk about frozen shoulder. So the frozen shoulder, usually we always, everybody knows, commonly used the Jensen shoulder 3 needles. So that's line test 15, Sanjiao 14, and the Jian Nuiling, or it's called the Jian Qian. So that's the commonly used Jian Nuiling. Yeah, that's the Jian Nuiling. But Dr. Fang, he find out, especially in the acute stage, and this is considered B syndrome, right? So some people has this kind of around the age of 50. So the joint capsule becomes sticky, and then gradually, and it limited affect the shoulder's movement. So Dr. Fang find out most the frozen shoulder patient, if the patient, usually they come see you, they had a symptoms 3 months, 6 months, right? They come see you. Always patient ask, oh, I cannot move my shoulder, later will be paralyzed. It never happen. You never see a patient have over 80 or over 70 had a frozen shoulder. It never happens. So around this time, it's very interesting, special time period around 45, 50, 55, and you pass this is you cannot say none of them had a frozen shoulder. It's much less. So Dr. Fang find or the frozen shoulder, they have a point called line testing 17. So line testing 17 always has tender, always tender. And so when this point is tender and you insert a needle on it and ask the raise or extend it, and they will immediate result, immediate progress. So where is line testing 17? Seems not often used. So SCN is like a Chinese letter, human. So from the mastoid and clavicle ends, you can see around 1/3, little bit below 1/3, posterior to the SCN muscle. You will find out, wow, this is dangerous. Actually not. So this area is dangerous, but you can hold where the carotid artery. When the carotid artery is under your thumb, and then you can insert a needle behind it. And usually you do the palpation. So the palpation behind the SCN, and going down, you will find the dead spots. Wow, it's a patient will say, wow, it's tender. And then you insert a needle, and then ask the patient move. And the shoulder. Also, for the stroke patient, also can use this point. And also with electrostimulation, the shoulder will be moving also. So that's very important. And also, whatever the frozen shoulder or the patient after stroke, because of gravity, and usually we ask the patient where the spring, hold it. If not hold it because of gravity and the patient paralyzed, muscles not so strong enough, and you'll find shoulder usually abundant, acromion abundant. This is like a square, 90 degree. So you can feel the space in the line intestine 15 or Sanjiao 14, especially Sanjiao 14 area. You can see, wow, the space is dropped. So those kind of problems also is sequelae of the stroke, and need a lot of work to the physical therapy, do a lot of rehab, or all kinds of things. This point works very well, also helps to raise the shoulder. Yeah. And but if the stroke, you can use electrostimulation. But if general, and you just needle insertion and do the rotating manipulation. So that's for the line intestine 17. And another interesting, for the patient had a low back sprain. So low back sprain, we use 腰痛穴, right? We use 腰痛穴. We use the bladder 40, okay? And if the patient comes to visit, and you always say you can have seat and fill the form, and the patient say I cannot sit. So, and then he fill the form when he's right away standing, and then go to the treatment room. Please lie on your bed. And the patient said, no, I cannot. So that's the patient had acute lumbar sprain. Besides, we use the 腰痛穴, we use bladder 40, we can use do 27. And another point, very effective and very convenient, because bladder 40 and kneeling down yourself is not so convenient. And also the do 27, very painful, very painful. So Dr. Fang used the same side, the bladder 10. And usually they will find a severe tender or slightly has a nodule, slightly nodule. So we insert the needles and lifting, thrusting, and then retain the needle for a little while. So where is bladder 10? So this is bladder 10. So bladder 10 is half turn above the posterior hair border. And you can look at it. It says 1.3 turn. How can find a 1.3 turn? It's hard. It's really hard. 1.3 turn. So Dr. Fang used the methods, whatever the 1.3 or 1.2 or 1.4 or 1.1. So that spots. And this is the spinal process, and then the bilateral paraspinal muscle. So paraspinal muscle, you hold it in the highest spot, enter the posterior hair border half turn. That's a spot. And when the patient had a low back sprain and a lumbar sprain, and usually here can find a nodule. Yeah, that's so amazing. I asked Dr. Fang, how could you find those spots? You know, it's usually the textbook never mentioned, and also it didn't see any reference, like a shoulder pain, you can find a tender, and almost everyone had tender on the line intestine 17, and migraine headache and GB41, and also stress or some kind of headache, posterior Taiyang, the Taiyang points, and then going backward to find the most tender spot. That's the, he said, you have to, okay, that's a Chinese word. That means when you practice, you have to think. Okay, that's a word, that's the words in English. You have to think, and you have to do the palpation, and then sometimes accidentally find, and then you repeat for several patients, and then you find where is the trigger. That's so important. And also you use this because it doesn't affect a lot of places. For the 腰痛穴, usually I have to hold the patient, okay, because otherwise he will fail. You hold the patient's hand, and then you do the 腰痛穴 2 needles insert, and the patient had to move his limb. So bladder 10 doesn't affect on the neck, and also the patient can move, and that's the so effective. And also sometimes because this is related to the bladder channel, and Taiyang, another Taiyang point will be small intestine 6. That's a steroid process. If you palm in this way, and you showed, if for this you can see the point. If you turned, the space disappear. So textbook always mention the palms facing the chest. The palm faces the chest, but for the long time the patient not convenient. So Dr. Fang used the methods. And let me see. Yeah, small intestine 6. So bending the elbow and slide, hold the fist, and fist going upward and facing to your body. So it can be done on the table. So you're bending the elbow. So that's the I can choose background. Okay, and I think I can spotlight to everyone. Okay, spotlight to everyone. So traditionally, the textbook mentioned is the palm facing the chest. Okay, that's the holding for a long time. That's not good. So he used bending the elbow, and with the dorsal part of the hand going upward, slide fist, holding the fist, and on the top of the table. And so that's really, if the patient still can insert a needle. And also the space is big. Yeah. So that's the method is using. It has a lot of tricks, that's you follow him, but he always say, in Chinese say, 你要动脑筋. You had to think about it. It's not just the point, the needle inserted, doesn't work. Yeah. And also some points I mentioned. That's a CV22 he's using is very effective for the patient has a productive sputum. And usually the classical, and the points say the needle supposed to be behind the sternal bone and in front of trachea. So that's very dangerous. You have to put the pillow under the shoulder, and the head is in the overextension position. That's not convenient. So with acute bronchitis or asthma or whatever, they have a productive sputum. And he used the way is very effective. Also, it's safe. And safe and also supposed to be effective. Okay. So this is top. The sternal notch. This is sternal notch. Sternal notch has a slide the platform, like slide platform, and you can hold like this. So you can push, and push it deeper. You will be choking. Yeah, you'll be choking. You'll be choking. So before you'll be choking, this have a small distance. So the needle is okay, 45 degrees. 45. Okay, let me see. Okay, let me turn the lights. No, the lights are not good. The red one. Okay. The sternal cradle, bone, cradle bone, the notch, and the sternal notch. Okay, if you push deeper, that's you'll be choking. So before that, a small platform. The needle, 45 degree. Okay, you use a 1-turn needle and gauge maybe 30 or 32. So yeah, I don't know, can show, yeah, 45 degree on the top of the small platform. And then use the method, the tapping. The tapping means the needle still under the skin, but you use the strong method to lift and thrusting. So the needle tip slightly tap on the top of the bone, the sternal bone, the platform, and you will feel the sensation spreading to the chest. And then you change the angle, and then the needle shaft on the subcutaneous in front of the sternal bone. So traditional textbook, they mention is better you use the needle supposed to be behind the sternal bone and the front of trachea. That's dangerous. So if we use a safe way or the practice and also effective, and that's really effective. Yeah. So you use a 1-2 needle, just a slight tapping on the top, yeah, several times, and then change the angle and retain the needle between the skin and the sternal bone. So that's the methods, and they use the retaining for 20 minutes, I think enough, and also the patient feel totally different and when the needle withdrawn. Yeah. So that's the methods we're using. And also, as he's using, he tried to use a 1.5-turn needle and all the way try to and do the best to try to reach to CV17. But as usually now he added one more point of the CV17. CV17 also pinch the skin and the needle down, and also in subcutaneous. Yeah, that's the methods using for CV22, and that's also feel the tender and the methods. That's the points I want to share with the, okay, the last one I want to share, he's using so interesting for hiccup. Okay, so the patient, I see the patient have a hiccup for probably 2 days or 3 days, and then continues. It's really bothering, yeah, really bothering. So the hiccup patient, according to textbook, we use the CV12, yeah, CV12, and also can use bladder 17. But the patient, the situation is not stable. When I joined the team in the Huashan Hospital, the acupuncture department, several years before, they had a big malpractice incidents. So a patient had a hiccup, and they use acupuncture on CV12 and use electrostimulation, and the result is excellent. But when the patient walk out the downstairs, walk out the hospital, the outpatient department, about only walk 10 or 20 steps, the patient fainted. And because emergency room is right there, and they send it back and check the blood pressure 0. And then find out, because this patient has enlarged the liver, and the patient hiccup, the diaphragm is not stable. So the electrostimulation up and down, actually on the liver surface, they cut a groove. So they have to cut half of the liver. So that's a terrible. So we can use PC6, but sometimes not so good with PC6. And the Dr. Fang used the bladder 2. Bladder 2 use two thumb holding on bladder 2, and then later use Hepton needle going down, the needle going down toward the bladder one. And this is the method very effective. And I checked it. Not so many people using, but I found a famous acupuncture in Beijing, Professor Jing Bohua. She passed away during the pandemic, and she used this. And also the president of Shandong University TCM, Dr. Gao Suzong, he also used. He used 1 point. He has a book, 1 point. I forgot the total, but anyway, just use 1 point to treat the different. That's also, he mentioned is the subtleties, the triggers. It's very important and very important. You find the appropriate point, and then we get an instant result. Instant result. This point is very interesting. I know you just heard about acupuncture anesthesia. Right, that's in 1970s in China, because the first case was 1958 for tonsillectomy, but later they were looking for the patient has the thyroid problem, thyroidectomy, and also pituitary problem, and so the operation above the chest. For the lung, some people also use it for heart, and lower area only the CV do the C-section. They do the also acupuncture anesthesia methods. So acupuncture anesthesia, they have to use the inducing method first. So inducing method, and usually they use the bladder 2. And the bladder 2, according to the nose or facial acupuncture, this is spots related to the lung. So according to the acupuncture anesthesia, they say the lung related to the skin. So that's why when you cut the skin, they don't feel. So they use this kind of way to analyze. But whatever the methods, you can, I don't think any channel theory is related, but that's the, since we cannot explain, that's empirical points, right? Empirical points. And also, but it works, it works immediately. It works immediately. It's a convenient. PC6, sometimes in needle insert, they were shooting down to the fingers, and bladder 17 also is not stable. When the patient faces down, the patient hiccup. So it's the most safe and effective spot that's to treat hiccup. That's the bladder 2. So usually you have the both thumb holding on this for several minutes, and then use the needle. So that's also get an immediate result. It's 6:59. I hope I can tell you more. Dr. Fang has, he is a very experienced person, and also many other. So next time, if a chance, I will share with everyone. Maybe give 4 or 5 minutes. You have any question? Just let me know. Okay. I remove spotlight. Sorry, remove spotlight. Okay. Oh, thank you, Dr. Tian. I see Dr. Tian, Dr. Wei. Oh, 谢谢捧场. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any questions from the audience, please? If no questions, I have a question.
Okay.
So for the BL2, for the knee, the hiccup, would it be also effective for another type of the rebellious qi? It's called a belching. I think in Chinese called
running,
qi.
Yeah, pigger running, right? Pigger running qi.
It's like the low pitch, but not as strong as a hiccup. You know, hiccup usually is high pitch, right? And pretty strong.
The other way. That probably I believe still I can use the line testing 17. We forget the meridian, okay. We consider the anatomy. If we consider anatomy, when I use for the patient had a stroke, because they paralyzed, I use the line 17 and also Sanjo 9 together, can see the whole hands and also the shoulder, they're moving. But I met one patient. He had a stroke, and he's had obesity. His neck is very short, and actually, I not really can find the SCN so located, and the patient paralyzed, squeeze like this. So and then I try my best to find this, and then I saw, okay, after turn on the electrostimulation, the shoulder is moving. About a few minutes later, I saw, the shoulder gradually stop moving, and instead of the hiccup, okay, what happened? The hiccup. I changed the angle, the shoulder is moving, and then a few minutes later, his shoulder is not moving, so it's a hiccup. So, okay, it's hit the vagus nerve. So the vagus, so that's probably also we can use that points from the anatomy. That's the point we can use. But anyway, PC6 always good for both and in combination. Yeah, I think for your mention, okay, PC6 also is good. For the PC6 is not for carpal tunnel. I usually use the one hand, I hold, so that's the PC6. I can make the spotlight. I turn down my lights. So PC6, I always use the finger holding here, then needling this way. So when my fingers is holding, and then the needle 45-degree going toward the elbow. So it won't cause the needle shooting sensation to the fingers. So you always hold it, and then do the manipulation, still hold it. Yeah, hold it. And then when you retain the needle, and then the thumb, so a little bit lower than, because it lower should be this way, but I just show you. It should be lower than PC6. That's why you hold it. Yeah. And then you insert the needle 45-degree upward. And it won't go into fingers tingling sensation or shooting. So for you mention your sensation, because the PC6 is for the chest, heart, and the stomach, is the master points. And I think that works.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I do have another question, if I may ask. So for the GB41 for the migraine,
acute stage is better.
Yeah, acute stage. I find sometimes a patient has a lot of fat on their feet. Is it, for that case, is it more important to find the anatomic location or just the pain point?
I think it is better with the pain point, pain spot, tender spots.
Yeah. The tender spot, okay.
Like level 3, so the textbook always say 1 to above, but some people stress, some have problem, is always higher is better, tender. So the tender spots is not really going to the, and the top is not, the textbook mentions the spots. That's the, around this area, you can find the tendon. Actually, a little bit of foot little fat is better. If too skinny, and really you can easily hit the bone. Easily hit the bone, very narrow area at the base of the fourth and the fifth metatarsal bone. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone. So hope next time I will chance to share information with you again. And
yeah, thank you very much. We have learned a lot from your
okay,
knowledge and skills.
It's a practical information.
Dr. Chen, we are so pleased to have you today, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and with your 40 years experience. And as acupuncturists like myself, I realized the case you share with us are the most common case we see in the real life. And the point, seems like Dr. Fang's style is very accessible. Like the most of the point are really easy to find. Like, you know, most of them are on the extreme end, and it's, I mean, to me, I mean, it's not too painful most of the time. It's not on extreme end, but it's more like distal extremities. So I think we can apply that on the patients, you know, and thank you for sharing that with the new acupuncturists just like us, and hopefully in the future, you know, we can have you come back to us, give us more lectures.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you everyone.
谢谢陈老师，谢谢。Thanks
谢谢。
everybody for coming today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.
And just one more thing, we also gonna have another like webinar on 23rd this month. We're gonna talk about like type 2 diabetes. That will be hosted by Dr. Su, and will be a Zoom meeting as well. And for that webinar will be held in Chinese. So I know most of like the audience here are the members of YAA already, but if you're not the member of us, you can find us on tcmyaaa.org to join us. And see you guys next time.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.